Welcome back to Q-Dads. I'm Steve, and the series finale of Foundation has just hit our screens. We were given loads in this episode, but mostly three things: the truth, death, and several great one-liners.
To Becky's arsehole.
Join us as we review and break down the final episode and give our overall thoughts of the series, as well as what to expect for Series 3 towards the end. Episode 10, titled Creation Myths, starts with Gaal as she questions whether the universe can die and how it all began. She then tells the story of how she used her mentalic powers to persuade a guard into saving Harry's life and the long journey they both had to get Harry back to the beggar. I first questioned this scene as I felt like it was some cheap way of making sure Harry survived, but actually I then realised that it's all about the connection of the mind, and especially that of Harry and Gale's minds. I do think, however, we might have finally squashed the theory that Harry is in a robotic body, as we've never seen a mentalic be able to control a machine. Also, we see Harry has wounds. When Demerzel got injured, the wounds were different. So this leaves our first unanswered question of the series: how is Harry still alive? We can only assume the planet where Calais must have been had cloning technology similar to Empire, but why? And will this version of Calais appear again? All the mentalics approach our trio and explain that their minds are now free, paving the way for the second Foundation. We had questioned if they were there of their own free will, and this seems to answer that. Rue and Dusk are confronted by Demerzel, who puppeteers our own heartstrings as she tells us about her own versions of the events. It turns out she hired the Blind Angels, as I predicted, and she has already altered the evidence to point the blame at Seraph and has her arrested. Demerzel here knows everything, including Dawn and Seraph's relationship, but struggles with the thought of her emotions being real, or would she still have them if she wasn't corrupted by Cleon? She both loves him and hates him for what he's done, and yes, we get our first deaths, with Rue and Dusk's lives ending. It's worth mentioning here that at the start of the scene, you can see Dusk's paint-covered fingers, foreshadowing the rescue by Dawn later in the episode. This whole scene was powerful, seeing the despair in Demerzel as she fights between hate and love for Cleon, never really knowing if her intentions are her own or the code Cleon put there. We then jump to Terminus, or what remains of it, as Day watches the destruction continue. He orders Belrios to jump to Thespis, the first of 7 planets under Harry's persuasion. He refuses, and here we get some more truths. She-Benz alters the jumps to have each ship jumping on itself, destroying them in the process, doing this in order to save her race, as Hober originally offered. We find out that Hober's markings store the jump code needed for this, and getting him on board the ship was Harry's plan all along. Hober informs Day he was baited into war.
In other words, we played you.
And starts this epic fight scene. We get another great line in the series.
It's a frog's arse, watertight.
One of many for the episode. Bell steps in to save Hober, and Day accepts the challenge, almost beating Bell in hand-to-hand combat. We then get what we've been waiting for the whole season: the use of the quantum entangle bracelets, forcing Day to swap places with Bell, killing Day as he drifts towards the ruins of Terminus. What a fantastic set of scenes this was. Foundation seems to do this so well. No need for some flashy combat. A simple hand-to-hand fight is all they needed. The amount of emotion and will put in each blow by Belrios was brilliant. I think it's safe to say I enjoyed Day getting his comeuppance a little too much. Demerzel marches Seraph away, and Dawn notices the smudge of green paint on Demerzel's neck, nicely tying into the reason for her hug with Dusk earlier in the episode. Hober and Bell send Constant into a cleaning pod, which is ejected from the ship. Bell and Hober then share a nice glass of corked wine and a toast to Becky's arsehole as they enjoy their final moments, which finally is a nice homage to Becky, considering this did not happen in episode 8. This is also a brilliant way of sending off 2 fantastic characters.
Those who are toast. I know a better one. Here's to those who fight and ask why.
Although I do question this scene though, because if Hober Mallow is dead, then why would the mule be asking for him 150 years later? Does this imply he survived? We've seen characters come back to life before, and seeing as Hober was on a spacer ship, could they have done more than just implant jump codes? Could they have taken a sample of his DNA and memories? I personally think he'll make some form of return, Or maybe Hober Mallow could be the new name of the head priest going forward as a mark of respect, this creating a weird self-fulfilling prophecy. Dawn kills a guard to set free Seraph and the two escape Trantor. They trick Demerzel with facial scramblers, leading her to believe they were announcing their marriage and the death of Day to the Empire. Dawn speaks directly with Demerzel, showing his compassionate side, and explains that him and Seraph are leaving with their new child, who only needs love. I think the announcement of the child is important. I don't think it's the mule, but I do think it will be involved in the usurping of the throne of Trantor, maybe as a parent or grandparent of a new character in Season 3. We head back over to Ignis, and here Tellum takes over the mind of Josiah, forcing him to reach for a gun and shoot at Gaal. But in a turn of events, Sal dives in front of the firing range and gets shot, but also kills Josiah in the process, ending that mule theory once and for all. It's sad here to see Sal die. Again, another main character in this episode that dies. Part of me thinks that because she stepped inside the vault, her DNA is kept, and we may see a return of her in the future, like we did with Harry. During the conversation between Harry and Gaal, as he comforts her, he says an infinite number of ways to arrive at the inevitable, when asked if the plan can still work. While saying this, his eye twitches. Is this brilliant acting? Or is it something else? As this makes me think, no matter what they do, it will all end the same. Constant lands inside the vault, and realises that Harry is still alive, as well as the First Foundation and all its inhabitants, including Glawen. Was this meant to happen, or did this version of Harry alter the plan after finding out about multiple Harrys? Is this the reason Sal died, as the plan had been altered? Demerzel decants 3 versions of Empire simultaneously, something she's never done before. She informs them and us that she has the Prime Radiant, and as predicted, knows how to access it, or at least partially access it. Harry and Gaal enter sleep pods and inform us how they will survive the next 150 years and train the Mentalics. We then get our final jump, as we predicted, 152 years in the future, where the mule is seen talking with himself, or someone we're yet to be introduced to. He mentions that he must destroy Gaal Dornick and anything that might be in his way. But why? Why has his intentions shifted to Gaal and not Hober Mallow? Why does he want to harm Gaal? What knowledge does he have about her? Or is he on the side of Empire, or another side entirely? What an episode. The last 3 have been brilliant TV. I can't wait for Series 3, though it might be a while because of the writer strikes. Anyway, we have a few things to discuss. Firstly, Harry's plan. Was it always to sacrifice Terminus? We've been saying that for a while. We did question if the vault had survived, and clearly it did. Firstly, does this mean Foundation 1 will just move around space without anyone knowing of its existence? As Vault Harry doesn't have the Prime Radiant anymore, the communication between him and Ignis Harry is now lost. Was it Ignis Harry's plan to have the vault in space, or Vault Harry? Secondly, the mule is always after Foundation 2. Is this because in 150 years from now, everyone has forgotten about Foundation 1? Finally, we know the mule is an enemy, but there was a throwaway line in a conversation between Ignis Harry and Gaal, which made it sound like Foundation 1 might become a direct enemy to Foundation 2. This leads me straight into the mule. Could the mule have been speaking to Vault Harry at the end of the episode? If Foundation 1 becomes an enemy, could Vault Harry want to make his claim as the better Harry, sending the mule to do his bidding? Now all the theories of who the mule is seems to be dead, but the very last scene, the mule's eyes were flickering. Does this imply that the mule is actually an AI or a cyborg of some sort? Not only this, it seems almost like the mule is only attacking Gaal because Gaal wants to kill him. Has something weird happened where Gaal looking into the future directly causes the mule to become bad? Or, following my previous theory, has the mule told Vault Harry about the situation, thus causing a war between Foundations? Our final talking point here, Demerzel getting the Radiant. Throughout the whole episode, we question, is she good or is she bad? I like to think she's good, forced to do bad. The scene where she opened the Radiant almost made it look like a revenge plot would be on the way. However, she said she can learn to read the Radiant. Did Harry leave clues inside of it for her? And will this help her to overcome her programming? I envisioned some conversation between her and Calais at some point, with Demerzel ending up in the Radiant. Ben wanted me to mention though, is this actually part of the plan, or did Harry think Demerzel would have been destroyed? Let us know your thoughts on the episode. I think this has been the highlight TV show for the last 10 weeks, and I'm really sad to see it end. Do you think Demerzel will break her code in Season 3? Do you think the mule is talking to Harry? And do you think he's an AI? Or as many people have pointed out, could he be the child of Sarith and Dawn? We will be recording our final cast soon, ready for next week. Feel free to ask us any questions or state any theories in the comments, as we like to talk about these in the cast. Finally, if you've enjoyed our breakdown of the series, please subscribe, as we're so close to 1,000 subs, and we think it'd be a nice way to end the series. As clearly this has been our sci-fi show of the summer. Apple TV have been smashing it this year, and it looks like November will be no different, with For All Mankind dropping and Monarch Legacy of Monsters dropping. Anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, catch you next time with something new.
To Becky's arsehole.